The air in Elon's private office at SpaceX buzzed with anticipation, but not for the usual reasons. This wasn't about rockets or electric vehicles. This was something darker. He leaned over his desk, scanning a live feed from a private satellite system he'd built for monitoring environmental anomalies. A peculiar pattern had caught his attention. Wildfires erupting across the globe in locations too improbable to be coincidental. "Elon, these fires don't follow the usual natural spread," said Andrea Sims, his lead data scientist, her voice tinged with unease. "They're skipping over areas that should burn and targeting specific regions instead." Elon rubbed his temples, his mind racing. This wasn't just climate change or bad luck. It was deliberate. He zoomed in on the feed, noticing faint, grid-like structures overlaid on the affected areas. Unmistakably artificial. "Have you isolated the source?" Elon asked, his tone sharp. "Not yet," Andrea replied. "But there's something else. A signal. It's faint, embedded in the electromagnetic spectrum. Almost like instructions." Elon's heart quickened. "Instructions? Get Sarah from our climate division on this now," he ordered. "I want a full analysis of that signal. And tell Gwyn to prepare for a meeting with Homeland Security. We're going to need leverage." As he paced the room, a notification pinged on his phone. It was encrypted, anonymous. "You're looking in the wrong direction. Find the key before the flames consume more than forests." The next morning, Elon sat in the SpaceX war room, surrounded by his top advisors and analysts. Gwyn Shotwell, SpaceX's COO, stood at the center of the table, flipping through satellite images on the projector. The room was silent as she outlined her findings. "The signal Andrea discovered is real," Gwyn began. "It's a form of ultra-low frequency manipulation, something that could influence atmospheric conditions, even trigger wildfires remotely. And it's coming from a specific source, a research facility buried deep in the Swiss Alps." Elon's jaw tightened. "Who's running it?" Gwyn hesitated. "That's the problem. The facility is tied to a shell corporation, fronting for a group called Aurora Initiative. They're completely off the radar, no board members, no public records. Just whispers in classified documents and energy patents." Andrea chimed in. "We pulled what little we could from the encrypted signals. It's not just wildfires. They're testing environmental control on a massive scale. Hurricanes, droughts, even earthquakes. The tech they're using isn't decades ahead. It's centuries." Elon stared at the map projected on the wall. It wasn't just about fires. This was about control. Entire ecosystems were being manipulated like pieces on a chessboard. "Do they know we're onto them?" Elon asked, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Not yet," Andrea replied. "But they will soon. Their tech isn't just advanced, it's monitoring us. The moment we try to interfere, we'll light up their radar." Gwyn nodded. "We'll need to move carefully. A direct approach could get us killed." Elon's gaze hardened. "Then we'll do what they don't expect. Hit them fast and unpredictably." As the team prepared their strategy, another anonymous message appeared on Elon's private server. "Aurora has a plan for humanity. You won't stop it, but you'll burn trying." The tension in the room thickened. Elon knew they had no choice but to act, and fast. The private jet descended over the jagged peaks of the Swiss Alps, its stealth systems ensuring it avoided detection. Elon stared out the window, his mind racing. Aurora Initiative's facility wasn't just another lab. It was a fortress, hidden deep within the mountains and guarded by technology that rivaled his own. "ETA 10 minutes, Gwyn's voice broke through his thoughts. She stood near the cockpit, reviewing tactical plans on her tablet. "Their defenses are automated, but Andrea's algorithms should disable their surveillance systems for exactly 20 minutes. That's all the time we've got to breach and extract intel." Elon nodded, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the armrest. "We're not leaving without proof." The team suited up in silence, their gear designed to blend into the snowy terrain. As the jet touched down on a concealed airstrip, the frigid air hit them like a wall. "This way," Jacob Royce, a former intelligence operative Elon had brought on for this mission, whispered. He led them toward a service tunnel hidden in the mountain's base. Jacob's intel had been invaluable. He'd worked in black operations and had encountered Aurora's shadowy influence before. The tunnel was a maze of ice and steel, dimly lit and eerily silent. They moved swiftly, their footsteps muffled by insulated boots. Gwyn scanned the walls with a portable EM detector. "No alarms yet," she said. "We're clear." But as they neared the facility's core, the hum of machinery grew louder. They entered a cavernous control room, its walls lined with monitors displaying live feeds of global weather systems. On one screen, wildfires raged across California. On another, a hurricane swirled towards Southeast Asia. Andrea gasped. "They're running simulations in real time." "No, wait, these aren't simulations. These are live events." Elon's stomach sank. Aurora wasn't testing. They were executing. "Download everything," Elon ordered, plugging a drive into the central terminal. "We need hard evidence." Jacob's voice cut through the tension. "We've got company." He motioned toward the hallway, where faint footsteps echoed. "They know we're here," Gwyn said, her voice tense. Elon glanced at the download progress, 70%. "Not fast enough." "Hold them off," he said. "We need this data." The team took defensive positions as the facility's guards approached, their shadows flickering on the cold steel walls. The mission was no longer covert. It was a race against time. The first shots rang out like thunder in the icy silence. Jacob fired a well-placed shot, dropping one of the guards before the others returned fire. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off the metallic walls. Gwyn ducked behind a console, motioning for Andrea to stay low. 80%. Elon shouted over the chaos, watching the progress bar creep forward on the terminal. Sweat beaded on his brow despite the freezing air. The guards advanced in formation, their movements precise and unerringly coordinated. These weren't ordinary security personnel. They were elite operatives, trained to kill swiftly and without hesitation. Jacob tossed a smoke grenade into the hallway, blanketing the area in a dense fog. "We've got to move," he yelled, signaling the team toward an adjacent corridor. "We're not leaving without the data," Elon barked, gripping the hard drive as if it were the only thing tethering him to the mission. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, heavy boots moving faster than they could react. A figure emerged from the smoke, their face obscured by a tactical mask. "Stand down," the figure commanded. Their voice was cold, mechanical. Jacob raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the masked figure stepped forward and lowered their hood. It was Gwyn. The team froze, disbelief paralyzing them. "Gwyn," Andrea whispered, her voice trembling. Elon's mind raced. The person standing before them wasn't the Gwyn Shotwell he trusted. It was someone else entirely. Someone who had been playing a game he didn't even realize he was in. "You should have stayed out of this, Elon," Gwyn said, her voice devoid of the warmth he had come to rely on. "Aurora's vision isn't something you can stop. It's the future." Elon's chest tightened. "You were with them all along." Gwyn's expression didn't falter. "You don't understand. This isn't about greed or power. It's about survival. The planet can't sustain humanity as it is. Aurora is creating order out of chaos. And how many have to die for your order?" Elon shot back, anger boiling beneath his calm exterior. "As many as it takes," she replied coldly, raising her weapon. "Hand over the drive." Jacob stepped between Elon and Gwyn, his own weapon trained on her. "Not happening." For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of betrayal hanging in the air. Then the download completed. The console beeped, and Elon yanked the drive free. "All right," Elon said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "You want this? Come and get it." With a swift motion, he tossed a flash grenade toward Gwyn and her operatives. The room erupted in a blinding light, giving the team the precious seconds they needed to escape. "Move," Jacob shouted, pulling Elon toward the corridor. The team bolted, their path lit only by the dim emergency lights as alarms blared throughout the facility. Gwyn's voice echoed behind them, barking orders to her operatives. They're heading for the surface. Don't let them out alive. Elon's grip on the drive tightened as they reached the exit tunnel. Snow whipped through the opening, and the frigid air hit them like a wall. Their jet was waiting just beyond the ridge, but they weren't safe yet. The team burst out of the tunnel and into the blinding Arctic expanse. The roar of the wind drowned out everything except the pounding of their hearts. Ahead, the silhouette of their jet waited on a snowy ridge, engines already humming. Freedom was within reach. "They're right behind us," Andrea yelled, glancing back at the pursuing guards. Flashlights and laser sights danced through the haze of snow, growing closer with each second. "Elon, give me the drive," Jacob demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I'll draw them off. You get to the jet." "No way," Elon shot back. "We do this together." Before Jacob could argue, a distant rumble shook the ground. Overhead, a black helicopter emerged from the storm, its spotlight slicing through the darkness. Gwyn's voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "You can't outrun us, Elon," she called. "There's nowhere to go. Hand over the drive, and I might let the rest of your team live." "Don't stop," Jacob yelled, firing a few shots toward the helicopter. The team sprinted through the snow, dodging gunfire that tore through the icy ground around them. As they reached the jet, Jacob threw open the hatch and ushered everyone inside. Elon turned, gripping Jacob's shoulder. "Get in. Now." Jacob hesitated, his gaze flickering to the advancing guards. "I've got this. Go." Without waiting for an answer, he slammed the hatch shut and turned to face the oncoming threat, his weapon raised. Inside the jet, Elon shouted to the pilot, "Take off. Now." The engines roared to life, and the aircraft began to taxi across the icy runway. Outside, Jacob held his ground, his shots precise as he bought them precious seconds. The helicopter's spotlight zeroed in on him, and Gwyn's voice rang out again. "You're making a mistake," she yelled. "You don't understand what's at stake." From the cockpit, Andrea watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. "He's not going to make it." Elon clenched his fists, his eyes locked on Jacob's lone figure as the jet lifted off the ground. As the aircraft climbed higher, Jacob glanced back at the jet for a split second before disappearing in a cloud of smoke as the guards converged on him. "Jacob?" Andrea whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Elon stared out the window, his face a mask of grief and determination. "We'll make it count." 2 days later, Elon sat in the command center at SpaceX, his face lit by the glow of dozens of screens. The data they'd recovered had been decrypted and broadcasted to trusted allies around the globe. The truth about Aurora Initiative's plans, their manipulation of natural disasters, their designs on global control was now public knowledge. News outlets buzzed with headlines, "Aurora Initiative exposed. Global conspiracy unveiled." Governments scrambled to address the revelations, while protests erupted worldwide. The world was waking up to the truth, and Aurora's grip was slipping. Gwyn, however, had vanished, along with many of Aurora's operatives. The battle was far from over. Andrea stepped into the room, her voice soft. "The files are out. People are listening." Elon nodded but didn't turn away from the screens. "This is just the beginning. They'll regroup. They'll adapt. So will we," she said, her voice firm. "We've got the world on our side now." Elon finally turned to face her, a spark of hope in his eyes. "Then let's make sure they never rise again." As he stared at the map of the globe, marked with the scars Aurora had left behind, Elon knew their fight wasn't over. But for the first time they had a chance to reclaim the future.